I'm Geraldo Rivera at large in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, a lovely place that was the scene of one of the ugliest crimes in recent American history, the extermination of a family, the assault, torture, and kidnapping of two small children, the death of one of them, and the miraculous rescue of the other. We've got an exclusive today with that child, now 9-year-old Chester Grone's father, Steve. We'll see how his little princess is faring. And you'll hear breaking news on what Steve has decided to do regarding the trial of convicted sex offender Joseph Edward Duncan III, the monster who should never have been on the streets in the first place. The show is packed today. Here's what else we have for you.
Explosive new details about the alleged Animal House attack at Duke involving a broomstick. Then new allegations against the bouncer already charged in the murder of grad student Emet Sengian. And a young girl vanishes in Vegas. Wait until you hear what her parents discovered when she went missing. Plus breaking news and the mystery of Al Capone's vaults exactly 20 years later. So stand by. We're at large in Idaho, New York, and around the world.
My exclusive with Steve Grone, an exclusive new video of Shasta, the little survivor who's become America's daughter, minutes away. But up front tonight, the father of the alleged victim in the Duke lacrosse attack reveals a horrifying detail about what he says happened to his daughter that terrifying night. Fox News correspondent Jonathan Seary joins us from outside the courthouse in Durham, North Carolina. Jonathan, bring us up to date. What's going on?
Hi, Geraldo. Well, the father says that his daughter told him that during that alleged assault on the off-campus house during the party that his daughter was attacked with a broomstick, that she was raped and sodomized with that broomstick. Now, this latest information goes along with the story that the second dancer has been telling. Earlier, the second dancer said that while she didn't witness an actual rape at the party, that there was an argument, and that during that argument, one player threatened to sexually assault the two women with a broomstick. And in other developments, Geraldo, I just saw this flyer here. The new Black Panther Party for Self-Defense is passing out these flyers. Up here, you can see it has pictures of the two defendants in this case. They are calling for a protest rally outside Duke University Monday morning, and the organization is also offering to provide security for the alleged victim as this case goes to trial. Geraldo?
So it's just what this case does not need, Jonathan. You got the Black Panthers on the one side and Rush Limbaugh on the other. We need justice here, not ideological rhetoric. Had you heard that the students are saying that it was about money, this argument between the strippers and the Duke lacrosse teammates?
That's right. Several of the students spoke with ESPN on condition that their identities be withheld, and they told that network that the argument was simply over money and the amount of time that the two strippers were to perform. Of course, the two women telling a very different story, saying that the argument was about them trying to escape a sexual assault.
Jonathan Seary, thank you very much. Now to New York City, ladies and gentlemen, where there are new charges against the ex-con bouncer already accused of killing graduate student Emet Sengian.
Daryl Littlejohn, cops say, liked to dress up as if he was one of them, with badges and handcuffs and caps with insignias. Now, according to authorities, Littlejohn's bizarre fashion fixation may have led to the bouncer being charged with yet another brutal attack on a New York City woman. Thursday morning in a New York courtroom, Littlejohn was indicted for grabbing a 19-year-old college student off the street in October. According to the details of the charges, Littlejohn dressed in law enforcement garb and forced her into a blue van, which matched the description of Littlejohn's vehicle. As it was in the Emet Sengian case, Littlejohn's DNA was allegedly found on the handcuffs used in the October attack and was crucial evidence in bringing these new charges against him. This victim, though, was able to fight off her assailant and managed to escape, still handcuffed. 4 months later, late February, Emet Sengian wasn't so fortunate. In that notorious case, Daryl Littlejohn is awaiting trial for the savage slaying of the beautiful 24-year-old grad student, which took place after she left a Soho bar, where Littlejohn had been employed as a bouncer. Her nude, ravaged body was found wrapped in a cheap flowered bedspread in a vacant lot, tipped off by a local call to cops. The crime shocked the city and rocked the system. Police Commissioner Raymond Kelly.
We used our detectives, our investigative expertise well. I think people should be reassured.
Today, no bail was granted in this new case, and Littlejohn is expected back in court on the 21st of June.
Still ahead, my exclusive interview with Shasta Grone's father, Steve, who joins me here in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. That and this ahead on At Large.
Exclusive new video of Shasta Grone right here at home, nearly a year after her heartbreaking homecoming. Plus, the mystery of Al Capone's vaults. 20 years after my live television special drew ridicule, but became the highest rated show in syndicated TV history.
Joining me now here in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, Shasta Grone's father, Steve. Before I talk to my friend, though, a look back at the sicko who tore his family apart.
Joseph Edward Duncan III is the embodiment of evil. In April 2005, after serving a lengthy prison term for raping a 14-year-old boy in Washington state, the twisted predator is arrested again, this time for molesting a 7-year-old boy in Minnesota. Released on a mere $15,000 bond, the 42-year-old Duncan jumps bail, of course he does, resurfacing in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, where on May 16, 2005, armed with a shotgun and a framing hammer, cops say Duncan enters the home of Brenda Grone. Inside, he brutally murders Brenda, who's 40, her 37-year-old boyfriend Mark McKenzie, and her son Slade, just 13 years old. Abducted her 2 younger children, Shasta, then 8, and Dylan, 9. The children's dad pleads for their safe return.
As a father, and it hurts to say this, I've had some of the worst scenarios go through my mind. And, you know, none of them are pretty pictures.
Cops believe Duncan took the kids to a remote campground in western Montana, where over the next 7 weeks, he repeatedly tortured and molested them. Duncan even took digital photos and videotapes of his disturbing acts before allegedly murdering Dylan. Shasta's nightmare comes to an end on July 2nd, when a waitress recognizes her with Duncan at a Denny's back here in Coeur d'Alene.
Everybody that was at Denny's, the employees or patrons there that had anything to do with making the calls that brought Shasta home to us, those people are heroes to my entire family.
Steve Grone's relief is tinged in tragedy. The remains of his murdered 9-year-old son Dylan are found 2 days later at the Montana campsite.
We're only beginning to scratch the surface of what she may have been going through for the last 7 weeks.
Today, Duncan is being held without bail, awaiting trial in October for 3 of the 4 homicides. Prosecutors are demanding the death penalty. Once that trial is over, federal charges are expected for kidnapping the children and for murdering Dylan.
Steve joins me now. We spent yesterday with the little princess, America's favorite 3rd grader. She seems to be doing great.
She's doing fantastic. You know, you would think that somebody that went through this horrific ordeal would, you know, be somebody that wrapped themselves in a shell and just closed down. She does everything you would expect a 9-year-old kid to be doing. She plays with her friends, rides her bike, goes to swimming lessons, horseback riding. She's on a soccer team right now, and she's just enjoying life.
And no nightmares?
No, she actually does pretty well on that. I think I probably have more nightmares than she does.
Now, I understand you've reached a pretty dramatic conclusion regarding your stance on Joseph Edward Duncan as we go forward.
There's nobody that would like to see this guy put to death more than me, but I have to take her best interests. You know, those have to come first. And I would like to see this put to some kind of finalization where she doesn't have to testify at all.
So you're saying that you would agree to a plea bargain in which he received a life sentence without possibility of parole?
Well, I think that's definitely the lesser of 2 evils. I think that life in prison would, for him, would be better than dragging Shasta through a bunch of trials.
We're also joined by Chuck Lempesis, your pro bono attorney, who's been by your side really from the beginning. What do you think of this, Counselor?
Here's what Steve's looking at. First of all, in Idaho, we have executed 1 person in the last 30 years, and that one had to volunteer. So the death penalty really isn't what people may believe it's going to accomplish. The other thing is that if Shasta has to testify in this case, it won't just be here. It's going to be in federal court after the state court. It's probably going to be in California, the state of Washington, possibly elsewhere. And after this thing goes to the 9th Circuit about 10 years from now, that child may be back testifying at a retrial when she's 35 years of age.
We're also joined by Fox News analyst, former detective, best-selling author Mark Furman. Tell us about this Joe Duncan.
We have somebody we need to make an example of. We need to make an example, and I agree. We haven't killed anybody in Idaho in 30 years. Maybe it's about time we start with Joseph Duncan. The more we do here, the less they'll have to do in Montana, the less they'll have to do with the federal prosecution, the less they'll have to do in Minnesota, the less they'll have to do in California.
Now, I understand we have a very special guest from here tomorrow without giving away her identity. There's other news. You have suffered so much. What do you want to tell us about your own health?
I just had another biopsy on my throat. Doctors were concerned that my voice hadn't come back as quick as they felt that it should have, and biopsy came back positive for more cancer. Preliminarily, what they have told me is that they believe they should remove my vocal cords surgically.
And the timetable for this, Steve?
Right now, they're saying I should probably have it done within a month, which doesn't give me much time to really try to decide or look into other options. Thank you very much.
All right, special guest on this topic tomorrow. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. We have breaking news coming up on those Florida boot camps and is FEMA history. That plus it's been 20 years since my infamous television special, Al Capone's Vaults. You're going to see that for the first time in a generation. That and this ahead on At Large.
A young girl heads to Vegas to follow her dreams. What she found was love, or so her parents thought. Next, the shocking revelation the family made when she vanished.
It's Empire Today.
Welcome back to Idaho, everybody. We'll have that mystery surrounding the missing girl in Las Vegas minutes away. But first, a look at the rest of the world at large with our Lori Dew. Now, Lori, I understand you have big news on the boot camps in Florida.
That's right, Geraldo. It looks like boot camps are history there. Lawmakers under fire over the death of a 14-year-old savagely beaten at a Panama City boot camp in January have agreed to shut down the system in favor of a less militaristic program dealing with young offenders. The White House says it is opposed to a Senate panel's call to abolish FEMA and replace it with a new agency. The senators say Hurricane Katrina turned FEMA into a, quote, symbol of a bumbling bureaucracy. But the man who led FEMA during the killer storm, Michael Brown, says this proposal is just an attempt to recreate the wheel. Check out this video of a South Florida lawmaker being taken at the pump. The mayor of Hollywood had her purse snatched from her car as she was filling up. Elsewhere in Florida, a convenience store clerk stared down the barrel of a loaded gun, fighting off 3 would-be robbers who then fled the store, but then were later apprehended by police. And Simon Cowell once predicted that she would be among the last 3 standing on American Idol, but he was proven wrong last night when Kelly Pickler got the boot. Kelly, once dubbed the naughty little minx by Simon, sits down with our own Arthel Neville on Monday. And that is the world at large. I'm Lori Dew. Geraldo, back to you.
Lori, talking about that FEMA thing, I think they should abolish the whole Homeland Security agency. You know, FEMA was doing better before that agency existed.
Oh, well, I think you've got a point there, Geraldo. And it's very interesting that this proposal by the senators came out just hours before the president touched down there in New Orleans to check out how the recovery efforts are going. And one final note, believe it or not, hurricane season starts less than a month from now. So everybody's got to get in gear here so that we don't have this happen again.
Right, can't wait. Thanks, Lori. Now to Las Vegas, where a young Canadian woman whose family thought she had found love in Sin City found out a whole lot more when she went missing. Does the startling revelation explain her disappearance on the Strip? Phil Keating investigates.
For her 21st birthday, Jessie Foster wanted to celebrate right. So this Canadian native headed to Las Vegas. The bright lights beckoned and she decided to stay permanently. Her mom, Glendine.
When she met this guy, he's got, you know, a wealthy family, lives off a trust fund.
Jessie told Glendine she was living with a new boyfriend who was taking care of her expenses.
It seemed funny, but it didn't raise any awareness flags to me that would make me wonder why. I just believed everything.
On March 28th, nearly a year after she left home, Jessie went missing. Her family knew something was wrong, and Father Dwight hired private detective Mike Kirkman.
When you spoke with her family, what did they say in their first conversation?
Help us find our daughter. We haven't heard from her in 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
What Kirkman found gave Jessie's parents the shock of their lives.
They had no idea of what Jessica was doing in Las Vegas. Unfortunately, I'm the one who made that discovery and had to tell them that she was working as a prostitute.
Dwight's daughter was a call girl, and Jessie, who sometimes went by Taylor on the streets, had been at it for months. She even had a criminal record with a conviction of solicitation of prostitution under her belt.
It's so attractive for the young person that has no life experience, and they get involved in that because it is fun, and they don't know when to stop.
It's uncertain exactly what Jessie was up to and who all she saw in the days before she disappeared, but what is known is that the one person who admits to seeing her was the guy she was living with, her boyfriend, Peter Todd. A 39-year-old Jamaican national married to a convicted prostitute, Peter Todd lived with Jessie in this $500,000 home in North Las Vegas. Kirkman believes that Jessie's boyfriend was actually her pimp.
You can't believe the volume of calls that she makes to him and he makes to her.
And she's calling him every hour or two to say, okay,
I'm ready for more work.
North Las Vegas police interviewed Todd twice. He says he last saw Jessie April 3rd and doesn't know where she is.
what does your instinct tell you about the whereabouts of Jessica?
I don't know where she is, but I think Peter does.
We called Peter, but he declined our request for an interview, hanging up on us when we asked if he had anything to do with Jessie's disappearance.
I miss the fact that she would call me all the time. And I miss the fact that we're not the same happy-go-lucky family.
Jessie's parents are struggling to cope, but Dwight hopes that even though his daughter was a prostitute, the public gives it the attention she deserves.
Everybody out there, take the time and look at these pictures, because she's a beautiful, intelligent, fun-loving girl. She's my daughter. We need to find her. Period.
North Las Vegas police do not call Peter Todd a suspect, and they say he has been very cooperative. Now, since Jessie disappeared, her cell phone, credit card, ATM card, none of that has ever been used, and that is suspicious. However, there's no evidence of any crime happening, so for now, it's just a missing persons case. Geraldo?
Phil, thanks very much, mate. Stand by, right back in a flash with a trip down memory lane into Al Capone's vaults.
At Q13.
Celebrated a television event that, for better or worse, I shared with tens of millions of viewers in more than a half a dozen countries. It was the 20th anniversary of the live broadcast of The Mystery of Al Capone's Vaults.
A secret stash had been discovered in the basement of the old Lexington Hotel, belonging to Scarface Al Capone, the notorious mobster who for a time lived in the hotel. Since similar caches had been found in Chicago before, everyone thought the vault must be crammed with money, weapons, or maybe the bones of some of Capone's gangster rivals. And the idea was to open the vault on live international television.
I'm Geraldo Rivera, and you're about to witness a live television event. A massive concrete vault has been discovered. Some think it belonged to none other than the notorious Al Capone. Well, tonight, for the first time, that vault is going to be open live.
Well, what happened that night 20 years ago made pop cultural history and made me the punchline of a million jokes, some of which are still being told. Today, for the first time since it aired in April 1986, here's a portion of the secrets of Al Capone's vaults.
Now, what, if anything, that vault contains, we don't know. This is an adventure you and I are going to be taking together.
We drilled for 2 hours, weaving the live action of the digging with documentary material from that fascinating time in American and Chicago history, when flamboyant gangsters lived and murdered with impunity.